Hola clase, muy buenos días, buenas tardes, buenas noches. Hoy vamos a mirar la gramática 5.2 del libro de texto. So this has to do with the present progressive. So this is the grammatical term for saying ing, like in English, like as in I am talking, you are listening, we are studying Spanish. So let's look at this PowerPoint. Again, this is 5.2 if you want to follow along in your textbook. So this tells us that both Spanish and English use the present progressive, which consists of the present tense of the verb to be, which is estar, and the present participle of another verb, the ing form in English. So we'll see a few examples here. It says, las chicas están hablando con el empleado del hotel. So están hablando means are talking, right? They are talking. And in this photo, ¿estás estudiando en la playa? So he's asking her, right? Are you studying? So we have estás estudiando. So here's the form to be, which is estar, and the present participle, which is estudiando. So here are a few, well, this breaks down again what I just told you. The form the present progressive in Spanish with the present tense of estar, which we looked at in 5.1, we reviewed, and a present participle. So for instance, here we say estoy pescando. And there you have the English, estamos comiendo. So next we'll see how we form the present participle. So how do we form this pescando, comiendo? It's quite easy, really. If you remember that in Spanish, there are three overall verb types. All verbs in Spanish either end in AR, and the ending is very important in Spanish verbs. So they all end in either AR, ER, or IR. So those are the three main classes of verbs. So we have three examples here of each of those categories. So we have hablar for the AR, comer for the ER, and escribir for the IR verbs. So what we do to form the present participle, so the ing part of this structure, is we drop off the endings. So from hablar, we have habl, comer, we have com, and escribir, we have escrib. So we drop off the AR, ER, IR, and then we add ando for AR and yendo for both ER and IR. So it's quite easy, just two forms. So hablar gives us hablando, comer gives us comiendo, and escribir gives us escribiendo. You can see that highlighted here. Now, one thing to keep in mind that with ER and IR verb, if they end in a vowel, so if there's a vowel after you drop off the ER or IR, you put yendo instead of yendo. So you just basically put a Y. So here are three examples. We have leer, oír, and traer. Once we drop off the stems, we see there's a vowel there, right? There's an E there, there's an O here, and here there's an A. So we have to turn that into yendo. So instead of yendo, it's yendo. All right, so that leer gives us leyendo, oír gives us oyendo, and traer gives us trayendo. And the only three irregular present participles in all of the verbs is the verbs ir, poder, and venir. So ir gives you yendo, kind of like what we saw over here, right? Poder gives you pudiendo, so the O turns into an U, and then venir turns into viniendo. The E turns into an I. I'm sorry, they're not the only three. There are other ones. There are other ones that have irregulars, but that's because they're stem change verbs. So yeah, sorry about the confusion there. Ir, poder, and venir have irregular present participles. There are some others that also do here. So IR stem changing verbs have a stem change in the present participle. So we went over this in chapter 4 of the textbook for Spanish 111. If you didn't take Spanish 111, you want a refresher there, go back to chapters 3 and 4 and look at stem changing. But basically, these are only applicable to IR verbs, so the stem change carries over in the present participle. So for instance, preferir is an E to an IE stem change. So in the present tense, right, you say prefiero, prefieres, prefiere. That's the stem change. So what that gives us in the present participle is that same E, where there's the stem change, turns into an I. So you say prefiriendo. So you'd say estoy prefiriendo, estás prefiriendo. Conseguir is also an E to an I. Well, not also, there's a difference in E to an I stem change. So the E turns to an I here, consiguiendo, consiguiendo, okay? And then dormir is an example of a O to a U E stem change, of which there are not very many of these types. So the O turns to a U, durmiendo. So you don't say dormiendo, you say durmiendo. All right, so these are three of the, relatively, I wouldn't say common, because you don't really say estoy prefiriendo mucho, pero ahí está. Now, it's important to notice that in Spanish, we only use in general, we use the present progressive to talk about things that are actually happening in the moment. In English, we use it a lot more, and we'll see some examples here. So here it tells you, it gives you a few examples. Maru está escuchando música latina ahora mismo. So this is something she's doing right now. All right, so it's an appropriate use. Felipe y sus amigos todavía están jugando al fútbol. They're still playing soccer right now. In English, we use the present to talk about situations and actions that occur over extended period of time or in the future. So in Spanish, the simple tense is often used for that instead. So for instance, in Spanish, you might say Javier estudia computación este semestre, whereas in English, you might say Javier is studying computer science this semester. Or Marisa sale mañana para los Estados Unidos. So this is referring to the future. Whereas in English, we might say Marissa is leaving tomorrow for the United States. So just something to keep in mind. It's not across the board. I think a lot of Spanish speakers would say Marisa está saliendo mañana para los Estados Unidos. And others also might say Javier está estudiando computación este semestre. So it's not a hard, fast rule, but it's worth mentioning. All right, and that's it for that slide. So we will do a few activities. So again, if you want to follow along in your textbook, these are on pages 166 to 169. So you can just click. Well, when you're in an activity, you can click that. You're not doing this activity. It's not assigned as homework, but you get the point. You click that. Here are the, here's all the information we just went over in the PowerPoint. Okay, so vamos a leer las instrucciones. Dice, choose the correct present progressive form for each subject pronoun. So here we're just matching the subject with the correct form, okay? You guys know the drill. I'll tell you to pause it. So you pause it until you think you have the answer and then come back and check your work. Número uno, ustedes. So would we say ustedes? Estamos durmiendo, estoy comiendo, está cantando, están hablando. Pausa. Y volvimos. Sería están hablando. It's the only one that can go with ustedes because están goes with ustedes. Ok, número dos, yo. Estamos escribiendo, estoy siguiendo, están pensando, estás mirando. Pausa. Y ya sería la única opción es estoy, porque yo va con estoy. No es posible yo estamos, yo están, yo estás. No es posible. Tres, nosotros estamos saliendo, está descansando, están haciendo, estás escuchando. Pausa. Y ya sería estamos, ¿no? Porque nosotros, la forma nosotros de estar es estamos. Es la única opción, no hay otra opción. Número 4, tú, estoy nadando, está abriendo, están pidiendo, estás jugando. Pausa. Y hemos vuelto. Aquí la única opción es estás, porque tú va con estás. Ok, 5, el último, él. Estamos compartiendo, está leyendo, están bailando, estás caminando. Pausa. Y regresamos. Él está leyendo. Es la única forma porque él va con está. All right. So good. So again, this was just a correcting, or I'm sorry, a matchup, but we can just quickly go through and say what these were saying, right? So ustedes están hablando are talking. Yo estoy siguiendo. I am following. Nosotros estamos saliendo. We are going out. Tú estás jugando. You are playing. You informal. Él está leyendo. He is reading. Excelente. Ok, tenemos una actividad más. Vamos a ver las instrucciones. Choose the appropriate form of the verbs to complete the sentences. Muy bien. So, and these actually, these activities are actually in the textbook if you ever want to look at the activity in the textbook. So for instance, if you were to go ahead, this one is called seleccionar. So that would be in here somewhere. Actually, maybe not. Maybe I was wrong. I thought these were in here, but I guess not. I guess some of the activities on the super site are not in the textbook. So that's good to know. Yes, correct. Only these ones are in the textbook. Okay, I see. Right, so let's go ahead and do this activity. Okay, so choose the appropriate form of the verbs to complete the sentences. So same method here. Okay, I'll tell you to pause it. Pablo y Mercedes blank al aeropuerto en autobús. So would we say está yendo, están oyendo, están yendo, o estamos oyendo? Pausa. Y volvimos y sería están yendo, porque Pablo y Mercedes, ¿no? Ellos están yendo, are going. Good. 2. La botones, está llevando, estás llevando, está llegando, están llegando las maletas a nuestra habitación. Pausa. Y volvemos, sería está llevando. So the bellhop is taking our bags, our suitcases, right, to our room. Bien. 3. The other one is llegando. That means arriving, right? So that wouldn't make sense. 3. Ustedes estamos jugando, están tomando, están estudiando o están jugando a las cartas. Pausa. Y volvimos. Sería están jugando. You guys are playing cards. Muy bien. You guys are playing cards right now. 4. Estoy llevando, estoy confirmando, estoy llegando, estoy acampando nuestra reservación. Pausa. Y hemos vuelto. Sería, estoy confirmando. It's the only one that makes sense there. There are other ones that grammatically could work. Estoy acampando, estoy llegando, right? Any of these would work. You can say estoy, but they don't make sense. Estoy confirmando. I'm confirming our reservation. 5. No podemos jugar ahora. Estamos diciendo, estamos comiendo, estamos saliendo, estamos haciendo las maletas. Pausa. Y hemos regresado. Sería, estamos haciendo. We are packing our bags. That's how you say to pack. This is part of your vocabulary, right? Hacer las maletas, to pack your bags. Finalmente, número 6. Felipe y Gloria, blank, la isla. Están explorando, estás explorando, estamos viajando, están viajando. Pausa. Y volvimos, sería, están explorando. Están explorando makes the most sense there, right? They are exploring the island. Excelente. Ok, pues nada, buen trabajo, clase. Hasta luego.